To talk AFL, it's time to catch up with Alex Kayafa in the Informer studio. G'day, mate.
G'day, George. Good to be here.
We're basically halfway through round 15, and the Adelaide Crows have done what you've been promising me that they were going to do at some stage of the competition. They won a game.
Yeah, they played really, really well against Hawthorn, and they thoroughly deserved that win. They looked in control from the get-go, and they never looked back. They looked a team on a mission that was just certain to win.
So what's happened to that spurt that we saw from the Hawks?
They've
Gone?
They've just gone missing. They've just everything. They've just become it's become very interesting for them at the moment.
Okay, so while the Hawks have fallen over, the Eagles though look like they're almost invincible, especially when they play at home.
Yeah.
What do they do to Essendon?
Oh, look, they took
them apart.
They took control pretty early. They got up by 3 and a bit goals, and once they hit that sort of point, they never really looked back. Essendon really did challenge them. They really looked like they were going to make a real run at it, but just as Essendon started making a run, West Coast just had a couple answers that just dampened the momentum, and it was game over.
Speaking of answers, there was a suggestion that the Dockers might put up a really good fight against Richmond, the champions. Now, they did almost for 3/4 of that game.
Yeah, so 3/4 time, it was 1 goal of difference. Yeah. And, they really made life difficult for the almighty Richmond, but then in that last quarter, Richmond really flexed their muscle and just run away with the game. Yeah, took their foot off, put their foot back on the pedal, and that was that.
Yeah,
so.
took the handbrake off.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk now. The games that will complete this round, which is round 15, as we know. We're getting to that, you love saying it, the pointy end of the competition. Tonight we're seeing an interesting contest. It'll be the Demons up against Sydney, but it's being played in Cairns.
Yeah, it'll be one of those really interesting matchups. Melbourne are just, again, they're that team that you just don't know which Melbourne team's going to show up. One week they're coming out beating, a Port Adelaide, and the next week they're losing to...
All I can say is they're a long way from the snowfields, but they don't mind playing in the heat.
Yeah, no, they had a very good win against St Kilda on the weekend, and that was a huge win for their season.
So who are you thinking?
I'm thinking Melbourne here.
Okay, so the Demons. The Giants are going to take on the Navy Blues. I was very, very excited last week, and then got disappointed. So what am I going to expect from tonight's game between the Giants that have been like this all year and our Navy Blues?
Yeah, it's, GWS have been very up and down all season, and I am nervous because, Carlton had a test on the weekend against Collingwood. They failed that test, unfortunately, and now comes the point where they need to win every game the rest of the season, basically, to, have a certain spot in finals. And against the GWS team who found a little bit of form against Fremantle on the weekend, and given past record between GWS and Carlton, it's heading very favourably on GWS's side, unfortunately. But no, I think they're starting to find themselves. Yeah.
Alex Kayafa, you're not filling me with any level of confidence whatsoever. You could lie to me and make me feel better, couldn't you? It's that side of that competition now. We're getting towards the end. Give me some hope.
Well, if there's one thing that 2020's proven, it's been a very unpredictable year, so you just don't know.
Okay. Is there much to talk about in that other game between the Brisbane Lions and Collingwood? And of course, just before you say anything, we should add, we now know where the AFL Grand Final is likely to be. It's going to be at the Gabba, so Queensland. So suddenly, these Lions may well be the home team.
Suddenly these Lions become a little bit of a jumper in the Premiership race because now they're going to have the home field advantage with them. And, as we know, given last year what happened with Richmond, it can play a pretty big part in the way a season turns out. So, it's going to be very interesting, I think. And if we're going by the Brisbane and Collingwood game, I think Brisbane coming off the bye, fresh legs, regather themselves again. I think they're going to get the job done against Collingwood.
Especially if they kick straight.
Yeah, if they got to fix those kicking woes first, that's for sure.
All right, so that's what's happened. What's likely to happen now in the next round? Are we going to preview any of those other matches? Because if we go that far, that's another 6 games to remain. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's have a look. It's North and it's Port Adelaide.
North haven't been particularly great at all. Port Adelaide just trotting along nicely at the top of the ladder. They should get it done.
Okay, especially during this football frenzy that you absolutely get delight in. Can St Kilda bounce back against, a tired, very old Hawks side?
Hawthorn looks shot, unfortunately, to me. And that's strange to say because they're coached by arguably one of the greatest coaches that's ever coached in Clarkson. And it's strange to see a Hawthorn team just so down. So no, I think St Kilda will have too much for them.
Okay. So injuries have taken a toll of the Hawks and maybe a bit of confidence as well. The Geelong Cats have not lacked any confidence over the last few weeks. They seem to be in a rich vein of form, but they're going to come up against the Bombers. Can the Bombers bounce back from the disappointment of playing the Eagles and do something meaningful?
I think Geelong are flexing their muscle, just like what Richmond are there. They're really starting to prove their worth, come the important end of the season when you want to start hitting some form. They look a pretty scary outfit at the moment. And for Essendon, it's their season on the line here. They've arguably got the toughest road. They've got West Coast, they've got Geelong, in this upcoming round. And I think Geelong just have too much class for Essendon.
Who wins the arm wrestle between the Eagles and the Western Bulldogs?
Again, that'll be a very attacking game. Western Bulldogs have shown in recent times that they match up really well on West Coast. I think you've just got to back West Coast in, given ladder position and just form. But, the Western Bulldogs are no joke. They can come out and really surprise some teams.
Okay. Demons, we're going to be back at it again. During this crazy round of football to finish up the season or get close to ending the season. They take on the Dockers, who've shown that they have got some form about them. Have they got enough to beat or upset the Demons?
Fremantle are really competitive, and that's why they stay in games, because they just don't give up. They just keep willing themselves back into games. But given the importance for Melbourne and how much it could mean to them, I think that might just get them over the top, so I'll tip Melbourne in that game. All
right. The Crows, can they win another game this season? Because they're up against the Giants.
Well, it's going to be very dependent on how the Giants go against the Blues tonight. So I think that'll be very telling what will happen there. But I think if you're just going off paper, GWS.
They don't play. They don't play on paper, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. Just thought I'd throw that out there. And let's get back to Carlton. We know they're playing tonight, but in the next round they're up against Sydney. It's a side that we've played reasonably well against, but we haven't had too many famous victories of late. Yeah,
well, Carlton last year they went 1-1 against Sydney, so they lost at Marvel Stadium against Sydney earlier in the year. But then later on in the year, when David Teague took over, the Blues ended up beating them at the SCG. So Carlton have proven that they can beat Sydney. Sydney are in a bit of a rebuilding stage. I'm expecting Carlton to get up in that game.
There's another plus, we're not playing at Marvel.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, there must be people at the AFL going, don't bag our favourite stadium. And the game that looks like it may well be the end of that particular round, again, will pit the Lions, the Brisbane Lions, that must be buoyed now by the news that Anastasia Palaszczuk has paid the AFL $200 million to come on up and test themselves. Mind you, everything is conditional. We now know that Adelaide Oval is pick number 2 should anything happen with the COVID-19 pandemic in Queensland. So at the moment, they're looking pretty good, but can they finish off that next round against the Suns in a meaningful way?
Yeah, Battle of Queensland. It'll be an interesting game because Gold Coast have proven themselves, this year that they can actually compete really well, even against the top teams. But again, I think this is just a case of Brisbane just having a bit too much class for the Suns around the ground, and I just think Brisbane gets up there.
And last but not least, before we wrap this up, what have you made of that decision to lift the whole AFL festival and take it up to Queensland?
I think it's pretty fair. Queensland have made a huge effort to save the AFL season. They put their hand up and said, we want it. And
they're also passing over a cheque for about 200
they're
million.
passing over a nice little bit of money to the AFL, which is always handy.
Alex Kayafa giving us the lowdown on the AFL happenings, and more importantly, giving you a glimpse of what the Navy Blues might do tonight, but he's not so sure.
We'll see what happens.
Thank you, Alex.
Cheers, George.